Hello. I recently got my hands on this book, this period book of 1980s jumpers and a 1980s knitting machine. So I thought, why not use the machine to make the boring bits of the jumpers and create a magnificent jumper featuring the magnificent InterCity. Now, Gyles Brandreth, this gentleman here, is a UK institution, certainly in the 80s, and has always been well known for his wacky jumpers. He's also worked with Rowing Blazers, who made the iconic I'm a Luxury If You Can Afford jumper, which was sported by Princess Diana, and which they still sell, and it sells for over £300. I thought I could do better than £300. I did buy this knitting machine. It's a Singer HK100, which doesn't have a ribber, but after one attempt at trying to do mock ribbing, I decided I'm just hand knitting the rib and then hooking the rest onto the machine because I couldn't get my head around it. And as everyone knows, sleeves are the worst, most boring part of knitting a jumper. So that's what I did first. Here they are. So it was also helpful, I think, to start with something a bit smaller that I wouldn't mind frogging if I had to. The learning curve on a knitting machine is so steep. Everyone said it's going to be really steep, and they're absolutely right. It's so different, but once you get the hang of it, it's so quick. So these took half an hour, basically. That includes the increases and everything. Now, also, the other thing with knitting machines is gauge, and of course when you're hand knitting, your gauge is trial and error. You work with the yarn to see what works, but with these there's a dial, so I just swatched a few times to find something that matched my hand knit gauge, but it goes up to 12, and I knew it was going to be 12. That's what it is. So I can't knit anything thicker than DK on this knitting machine, but it's from the 80s. When I was growing up, acrylic DK was the only yarn in existence as far as anyone knew. Certainly all the patterns in here are acrylic DK, so that's what everyone used. Now I've done the sleeves, I've done the back, which hopefully you'll be able to see the back. This is what I think is supposed to be a rake of Mark III coaches for the 125. I believe they usually had a power car on the back here, so I don't know if this maybe is in a shunting yard or something, and they're just building the train, or possibly the knitting designer was not necessarily aware of this for some reason. Maybe she thought something else was more important. So obviously I haven't added that because I don't really care. Anyway, the reason I'm making this potato quality video is I wanted to log this process in case anyone else was interested, and maybe we can learn from each other, share some information, but also mostly I'd like to be able to go back, see what I've done, and decide to do this again. In the next video, if I can set up the camera properly with a better camera, I'll go through the machine, explain a bit more how I've approached this particular jumper and what I've learned, and just is it a good idea to get a vintage knitting machine in order to do the boring bits of otherwise fun jumpers, which I would say the answer is probably going to be yes.